know, it's been on my mind this week. Been thinking about bullying. Not the kind we all picture from school. Not the kid taking your lunch money or pushing you against the wall or pushing you to the floor in the playground. I'm talking about bullying nobody seems to want to talk about. The kind that follows you into adulthood. The kind that proves harder to prove because it always doesn't end up leaving bruises. It leaves doubt. It leaves frustration. It leaves good people questioning themselves. Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's a company. Maybe it's an organization. Maybe it's somebody with a title who believes that title somehow makes them untouchable. Now here's the thing. The older I've become, the more I've realized something. Bullying didn't disappear when we became adults. It evolved. As children, a bully might use their fists. As adults, they use influence. They use fear. They use policies. They use endless delays. They use intimidation. Sometimes they don't even have to say a word. They just make you feel though asking a fair question somehow makes you a problem. Help me understand something. When did standing up for yourself become a character flaw? When did asking for fairness become having an attitude? When did speaking the truth become difficult? Because I don't remember getting that memo. Now, before anybody wants to start and gets misunderstood, let me be clear about something. I'm not talking about arguing for the sake of arguing. I'm not talking about disrespecting people. I'm not talking about walking around just looking for a fight. Quite the opposite, actually. I'm talking about having enough self-respect to calmly say, I don't think that's right. Without shouting, without threatening, without any hatred, just honesty. Because there's a massive difference between being peaceful and being powerless. And somewhere along the line, I think we've got the two confused. I've watched decent people stay quiet because they didn't want conflict. I've watched hard-working people accept things they knew they weren't right, but they were just afraid of the consequences. And that's not because they're weak. It's because they got mortgages, children, bills, responsibilities. That's what makes emotional bullying so dangerous. It doesn't need you to scream. It simply convinces you that speaking up isn't worth the price. Now think about that for a moment. Have you ever walked out of a meeting feeling 2 inches tall? Nobody swore at you. Nobody threatened you. Nobody raised a hand. Yet somehow you walked away questioning your own worth. Now that's what I'm talking about. And here's what worries me. If that happens enough times, people stop speaking. Not because they have nothing to say, because they slowly have been conditioned to believe their voice no longer matters. And that's how good people disappear. Not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually. They stop believing they have anything worth contributing. Now I want to speak to the leaders for a minute. If you're a manager, a supervisor, a business owner, a CEO, ask yourself one honest question when you're driving into work today. Can people disagree with you without being afraid? Because if they can't, you've built silence, not leadership. The best leaders I've ever been around weren't surrounded by people who always agreed with them. They were surrounded by people who trusted them enough to tell them the truth. That's leadership. Now, if you're sitting there today feeling like your voice doesn't matter, don't make a mistake. Someone else's authority, your lack of worth, those two completely different things. A title can give you authority. It doesn't automatically give you wisdom. It doesn't automatically give them integrity. And it certainly doesn't give them the right to make another human being feel small. You know what I've learned? Kindness gets mistaken for weakness all the time. People assume that because you're respectful, you'll stay quiet. Because you're patient, you'll tolerate anything. And because you're calm, you just eventually give up. No. I'm respectful because that's my character, not because I'm afraid. There's a difference. The goal isn't to win every argument. The goal isn't to embarrass people. And the goal certainly isn't to become a bully. The goal is to create a world where people can speak honestly without living in fear. There's a verse in the Proverbs that says something like, "Speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Defend the rights of the poor and needy." Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't tell you to hate. It doesn't tell you to become bitter. It doesn't tell you to seek revenge. It simply says speak up. Maybe that's the challenge for all of us. Not to become louder, not to become angrier, but become courageous enough to keep our integrity. We're refusing to surrender our voice. Because here's what I believe. Never allow someone else's power to make you forget your own worth. Stand respectfully, stand honestly, and stand with integrity. And if you're standing for what's right, means standing alone for a while, then stand away, my friends, because history has never been changed by people who stayed silent. It's been changed by ordinary men and women who had the courage to calmly say, that isn't right. Stay strong, stay humble, and never walk afraid alone. God bless.